So standing start, they'll be led away by the New Zealand flag, and they'll go off in groups and different speed groups. So based on the times from qualifying, the final race of the weekend is a heads up, fastest to the front. But this is a bit of fun because the quicker guys have to come through traffic. If they get a safety car, it does help the guys at the back. The guys at the front, no safety cars. We don't want a safety car.
5 seconds for the race start. Away they go. Flag drops. And the beautiful little white Tirana heads off first. Commodore following him through, down into Pirelli corner. Car 26 leading the field. Sean Fowler will be the first car away down through turn number 1 in dry conditions, chased by Greg Running in the Commodore. Next group away, might be too far away, but you'll see the quicker guys, the likes of the Greg Honors, the Dean Perkins, the Shane Wextons, probably giving away a good 40 to 50 seconds at least with the race start. Here's our next group away, and it's Paul Bowden in the number 68 Camaro and Lance Midgley in the 360 Ford Falcon. Handicaps based on lap times? Yep, all based on lap times. We have 2 different categories within the NZ Muscle cars. The red windscreen banners denote the Class 1 cars, the more wild of the NZ Muscle cars. The blue, like we see there with Bruce Kett with the Camaro on the windscreen, is the Class 2. So they don't quite have the horsepower or the suspension sort of upgrades that the Class 1s do. So the next group of cars away, these are some of the quicker cars. Andrew Sinclair in the Chickadee replica, Clark Hopkins down the inside in that beautiful Tirana hatchback. There's Ross Graham going through. Rick Van Sweat, the number 67 Camaro. This is the number 4. And he's Colin Meadows. Run a little bit wide there. Found it pretty hard to stop there. Angus Fine will start pretty much from the back of the field in that sensational new Mustang. He's away now. And Shane Winston in the world's fastest HQ. This is great stuff. It's not something you're going to see an awful lot other than probably in New Zealand. An HQ being chased by probably one of the most beautiful Mustangs currently in the world of motorsport. I think the last HQ I saw race seriously was back at in the Bathurst 1000 in the days of Ron Dixon racing a HQ of all things. All right, so Dean Perkins with a little brake lock-up. He's racing there with John Midgley. Those two will be shadowing each other through traffic. So that handicap is quite big for these guys. They've got to make up a lot of ground. And even further back, you've got Wexton and Angus Fogg. This looks like a pretty intense battle between these two. Well, if Foggy thinks that Shane maybe is a little bit quicker, he might try and shadow him through rather than try and fight with him and tie each other up, because if they start doing that, that'll cost them time. And because the delay is so much different from those front runners, like you're looking at lap times that are probably 11 to 12 seconds a lap slower than these quicker guys at the tail of the field trying to work their way through traffic. And it's a big field of 26 cars. What's the capacity of the HQ, the Sydney? So the HQ started life as an NASCAR engine, 358 cubic inches, but it's been lent on by Craig Hyland at Engine Dynamics as Foggy goes down the inside. Well, that just answered that question. Foggy's definitely got some express pace. It's out up over 400 cubic inches, so it is a serious piece of kit, and again, approaching that 800 horsepower range. Foggy's is still the original 358 cubic inches of Ford, the Roush Yates power out of a Ford Fusion NASCAR, and you're probably looking at around that sort of 720, 730 plus mark for that race car. Top 5, Sean Fowler continues to lead from Greg Running, Paul Bowden, Lance Midgley and Bruce Kett rounding out the 5. Oh, look at this group. We're 3 wide down through turn number 2, 2 Tiranas side by side. Clark Hopkins getting through some of that early traffic. And that beautiful grey A9X going by Ross Graham in the orange example. Rick Van Sweat's in there in the number 67. And Rick's made the big step up in the last couple of seasons coming from Mini 7 racing. And that's just a great snapshot of all the different sorts of cars that have come from so many different eras in touring car racing. 60s, 70s, 80s. Yeah, we're into the 80s. With the BKs, you're probably into the early to mid-80s, sort of 1983, 1984 at maximum. That's probably where the cutoff is from a body shell point of view. Andrew Sinclair with a run in that fantastic Chickadee replica. I actually got a chance to speak to Alan Grice, who won Bathurst in the original version of that car going back about 3 weeks ago at Queensland Raceway. Well, the car is still owned by Brian Bailey, who built the car and funded that entire Chickadee project, which of course was pretty much the last privateer effort to truly win the Bathurst 1000, which was a tremendous day for Bailey and Grice. Another replica out there is the Red Dawson Camaro. That's Grant Dalton, the boss of Team New Zealand in the America's Cup. And that car is fierce, and that's well up over 800 horsepower. So this is round 1 of the Central Muscle Car Series? First round of the NZ Central Muscle Cars this weekend, presented by Game Over. It's the first round of a season-long championship, one of the the star classes in New Zealand motorsport. Oh, Ross Graham's got a problem.
Actually flashed the headlights on there for a moment, maybe trying to warn the guys around him that he had an issue, but that's definitely lost power going up the hill. Looking to trying to get into pit lane, and that I think he's going to get the opportunity to do, and it won't bring out the safety car. There's Dean Perkins, the wild man, not too far away from home, just north of us in Pukekohe. That car's spent more time with his family than I think most of his own kids. Started life as a traffic cop car.
2 laps down.
Foggy's got problems. Angus Fogg slowing in the J.A. Russell Ford.
Now, did have power steering problems, we believe, in qualifying. So whether it's been a return to form of that, but what a beautiful looking car. I mean, full credit to the team for turning it out so spectacularly.
Unfortunately, he's heading to pit lane for this race with the Central Muscle Cars. Greg Honor, another one to watch in the 429 Ford Mustang. That doesn't tell you how many cubic inches. It's just a race number that Greg came up with, but it's rather appropriate for a Boss Mustang of that shape. He's chasing down Andrew Sinclair, so at the moment Greg Honor is currently in the 14th position, so he's made some good ground in the early laps of this handicap reverse grid.
Sean Fowler continues to lead from Paul Bowden, Lance Midgley, Bruce Kent, Colin Meadows, Andrew Turner. P7 is Cam Crawford, then back to Clark Hopkins, Shane Johnson and Rick Van Sweat in P10 at the moment. So 3 laps down, 3 laps of 8.
Sean Fowler's doing 152s out the front. The big boys are doing 41s. Dean Perkins and John Midgley both in the 141 threes. Just trying to see where Shane Wigston is. 42.7 for Shane Wigston, just in back a shot. And I think that was Tony Galbraith just rejoining the track at the Porsche Dipper as these cars are working their way out of turn number 10, and that fast run up the hill, probably in the sort of region of 240 plus kilometres an hour, and probably maybe even a little bit quicker than that as we're 3 wide on the front straight and past the apartments.
Now the Mustang down the inside of the XA 2-door Falcon. Camaro goes with him.
That's Cam Crawford in the big number 30 Falcon, one of my favourite shaped race cars.
Yeah.
You can see some of the speed differences between the faster Class 1 cars, some of the slower Class 1 cars and the Class 2s. So 2 championships within one.
What sort of money to build a front-running car?
Oh, it's a tough one to ask. If you ask any of the teams what they cost to build, they probably won't tell you. But I mean, some of these race cars would comfortably be in the $150,000 plus range.
Most of them are probably trying to hide the numbers from their wives.
I would suggest so too. But yeah, it would vary up and down the field. But you know, the cost of building one of these types of cars is probably not an awful lot different to building a new one, to be perfectly honest.
And in terms of control tyres, you say, there's been a problem with the Camaro, the number 4 car.
Place.
Colin Meadows.
Yeah, Meadows is parked up. Hopefully the guys on behind see him. Dean Hanson took avoiding action there, so that is an awkward place to be. Oh, Dwayne Ingley slams into the back of it. I think he was unsighted.
That's a big hit too.
That's definitely going to bring out the safety car. Dwayne Ingley was unsighted and slammed into the back of the stranded Camaro. So Meadows, that was a fair way up the field, and there was a lot of traffic to come through. Disappointing for Dwayne Ingley. What was previously a beautiful Dodge.
That would be every race car's driver's nightmare, wouldn't it? Sitting there waiting for the field to come through and thinking, I've made it, and then bang, unsighted, and a lot of damage too to the rear end of the Camaro. They've red flagged the event. They've called it. So clearly with 4 laps down, results will probably go back to the end of the previous lap. Let's have a look at the replay.
Yeah, just reacted a little bit late and just slammed into the back of the Camaro, and that isn't a substantial amount of damage to the back of that car. Here's another angle.
Just caught it on the rear quarter.
Big impact. Wonderful views here. Oh, look at the damage to the right side. Got it right in the B pillar of the Dodge. So
this is what caused it.
Meadows has spun.
Now, clearly the car's stalled and he hasn't been able to fire it up, so he's been stuck there.
Bruce Kent did a good job early to get around him first, unable to fire the car up, and there were probably a good 12 to 15 cars that managed to get by, but Dwayne Ingley, the once beautiful Mopar, slams into the back of the Camaro, and it is game over for those 2 race cars.
So on provisional results at the moment, if they take it back to the start of the lap before the red flag, it'll be Sean Fowler that'll take the race win.
Well, we'll just wait to hear from race control as to what they're going to do with that, whether they call it or whether they will restart this race for the NZ muscle cars, but a nasty incident involving Meadows and Ingley.
Hopefully both drivers A-OK.
I think Meadows is out of the car, so he's out first. Ingley's still in the Dodge. the various medical teams and recovery teams here at Hampton Downs is turning their attentions to the 2 race cars. Back on track with the NZ Central Muscle cars behind the safety car, and the reason for the safety car deployment, in fact there was a red flag first, was this incident. Colin Meadows spinning the Camaro, and he was a fair way up the field, a few of the early cars avoiding action, but unfortunately for Dwayne Ingley, slams into the back of the Camaro. Some different views here, and it is a huge impact. Thankfully both drivers A-OK. Meadows extracting himself out of that beaten up Camaro. So the race has been shortened. We're hearing just one more lap, a flying lap for the NZ muscle cars. The safety car lights will be out. This will help some of the quicker guys from further back in the field, but unfortunately an incident we don't need to see, but we'll get back racing with the Central muscle cars. They will be getting away now, and some pretty big gaps through this field.
It'll be a one-lap flyer. Sean Fowler leads from Paul Bowden, Lance Midgley, Bruce Kent, Andrew Turner, Clark Hopkins, Rick Van Sweet goes through, Cam Crawford, Grant Dalton, they're your top 10.
Paul Bowden through to the lead. Keep an eye on Hopkins. That's one of the Class 1 cars just in back of shot. He's in the 6th position. Behind him was Greg Honor, but Honor was not very close off the back of the Hopkins Tirana off this restart. So Hopkins down the inside of Andrew Turner in the Brock replica, in behind Bruce Kent in the Coppins replica Camaro. Up into 4th goes Hopkins.
Camaro bolting away as we get down to these final few corners here at Hampton Downs. Massive array of all different sorts of classic muscle cars from the 60s and 70s. The sensational Camaro, the Rod Coppins lookalike car, the sensational XD Falcon number 360.
Vance Midgley in the number 360, but it's Paul Bowden out front. It's actually skipped away on this last lap. The last lap board was shown as they got the restart. Hopkins up into 3rd in the Tirana now.
Yeah, big mover there on the brakes. The Brock lookalike too, also now putting pressure on the Camaro.
All right, as they head back down onto the existing part of the racetrack through the high full hairpin.
Greg Honor in 429 around the outside.
Yeah, he's going to be looking possibly for a top 3, maybe a top 4. He's still trying to work with traffic as they get on the brakes down towards the Porsche Dipper. Clark Hopkins in 3rd. Can he get to Paul Bowden out in front? Wellington's Paul Bowden in the Camaro.
Side by side, Camaro and Ford Mustang. This is the game over. Central Muscle Cars. Final lap here at Hampton Downs.
Hopkins couldn't get the run from the Porsche Dipper out of turn number 10. He'll get the run up the hill, probably a little bit more horsepower than the Falcon ahead, but it's going to be Paul Bowden that'll take the victory in the Camaro.
Fairly tight for 2nd.
It's going to be tight for 2nd. Hopkins on the inside of the line. It will be the Tirana, but the Camaro takes the victory. Wellington's Paul Bowden with the win for the Central Muscle Cars, brought to you by NZ and Game Over. Bruce Kent, he'll be one of the leading Class 2 cars home, but it's Bowden, Hopkins, Midgley, Honor, Bruce Kent in 5th, and it will be Kent the first of the Class 2s across the line. An action-packed race. Here are the results. Paul Bowden with the victory, just 0.7 of a second ahead of Clark Hopkins. Lance Midgley in 3rd, followed by Greg Honor, Bruce Kent, the first of the Class 2s, Andrew Turner, Grant Dalton, Rick Van Sweet, John Midgley, and the top 10 completed by Dean Perkins.